What if I told you the Los Angeles Lakers might still have one more massive move left in them? And no, I'm not talking about a pipe dream, I'm talking about something that could realistically shake up the Western Conference if it plays out. Zach LaVine, yes, that's Zach LaVine. The high-flying, silky smooth scorer who once looked completely out of reach due to his monster contract, but now suddenly whispers are growing louder that he could actually be in play for the Lakers and not through some blockbuster trade that guts the roster, but through a potential buyout situation. That would make things a whole lot more interesting. Now, before anybody jumps to conclusions, let's take a breath and think about where this all comes from. There was a time not so long ago when bringing in LaVine made perfect basketball sense. Back when the Lakers were trying to find the perfect complement for LeBron James and Anthony Davis, Zach's name kept popping up. Why? Because he brought something the team didn't have: a pure bucket getter. Someone who could take pressure off LeBron in clutch moments, space the floor, create his own shot, and just go off for 30+ points whenever the team needed a spark. He could play on ball, off ball. He had the athleticism to run in transition and the shooting to be a threat from deep. And sure, his price tag was steep, but for that kind of offensive firepower, it felt justifiable at the time. But then the Lakers added Luka Doncic, and suddenly the whole calculus shifted. With Luka in the picture, ball dominance was no longer an issue. They had their floor general, their creator, their star. And while Zach could still contribute, the need for that particular skill set wasn't quite as urgent anymore. Plus, let's be honest, it's a little tough to justify shelling out $45 or $50 million a year for a guy who's now more of a luxury than a necessity. So yeah, the Lavanatola talk cooled down, understandably so, until now, because here's the twist: if Zach LaVine ends up getting bought out, and that's still a big if, suddenly the game changes. Now we're talking about getting a borderline all-star level player for the veteran minimum. Let me repeat that. A guy who averages over 20 points a game, shoots nearly 45% from deep on high volume, and can still dunk from the free throw line for basically nothing. That's not just a bargain, that's highway robbery. That's the kind of opportunity that makes G-Miz lose sleep if they pass it up. So why would Sacramento even consider buying him outright? I mean, they just traded for the guy. They clearly saw something in him. Well, it comes down to money. Sacramento is apparently eyeing a trade for Jonathan Kuminga. But the problem is they're hard capped at the first apron due to a prior sign-in trade deal involving Dennis Schroeder. So if they want to bring in Kuminga, they have to clear salary. And they're reportedly reluctant to give up young pieces like Keon Ellis or Keegan Murray. The Warriors, on the other hand, aren't exactly interested in taking on contracts like Malik Monk's, so the Kings are stuck. They need to shed salary, but nobody wants to absorb their bigger deals. That leaves them with few options. Either they convince another team to take on a chunk of a deal, or they resort to a buyout. And now we're back to Zach LaVine. It's not just about numbers, though. It's about who makes the most sense to let go of. Between LaVine and DeMar DeRozan, logic would suggest that DeRozan is the more likely buyout candidate. He's older, his contract is smaller, and he reportedly has non-guaranteed incentives baked into his deal that might make a buyout easier to negotiate. Plus, at this stage of his career, is DeMar really going to want to come off the bench for a play-in caliber team like the Kings? Probably not. If anything, he'd be much more inclined to join a title contender, maybe even accept a lesser role if it meant chasing a ring in a big market like Los Angeles. But what if LaVine himself pushes for it? What if he goes to management and says, look, I'll take a discount, just buy me out so I can go somewhere with a real shot at a championship? You think that's far-fetched? Maybe, but in today's NBA we've seen stranger things. And if Zach LaVine decides that riding the wave with Sacramento isn't what he signed up for, and if the Kings see a buyout as a path to financial flexibility that lets them land Kuminga without gutting their young core, then guess what? Suddenly, Zach LaVine is a free agent, and if that happens, the Lakers need to be the first team in line. No hesitation, no second-guessing. You go all in. You pick up the phone, you call LaVine personally. You get LeBron on the line. You get Luka. You get Magic Kareem. Heck, get Kobe's statue to make the call if you have to. Do whatever it takes to bring that man to LA, because the upside is absolutely insane. Picture this: Luka running the offense, LeBron playing off ball more to save his legs, Davis anchoring the defense, and Zach LaVine flying around the court as a catch-and-shoot sniper, transition finisher, and dynamic slasher. That's the kind of firepower that keeps opposing coaches up at night. And yes, it means hard decisions elsewhere. You might have to move Austin Reeves. That's not an easy call. Austin's been a fan favorite, a glue guy, a reliable piece. But let's be honest, LaVine's a better scorer, a better off-ball threat, and more athletic. Defensively, he brings more length and explosiveness. He's one of the best catch-and-shoot three-point shooters in the league, and he does it at volume. If we're just talking pure offense, Zach is the better player. Now, could you argue that Reeves is a more well-rounded player? Sure. He's probably the better playmaker, has more poise, maybe even a higher basketball IQ. But this Lakers roster doesn't need another initiator. It needs finishers. It needs players who can capitalize on the gravity that Luka and LeBron generate. And LaVine, he's tailor-made for that role. He stretches the floor, collapses defenses, and finishes at the rim with flair. He can spot up, cut, shoot, and get hot in a heartbeat. That's what makes this so intriguing. And don't forget, the Lakers were heavily interested in Bradley Beal not long ago. But guess what? Zach LaVine does many of the same things Beal does, only he does them better for what the Lakers need. LaVine is the more explosive athlete, the more efficient scorer, and arguably the better fit alongside LeBron and Luka. He's already proven he can thrive even with multiple scorers around him still, putting up over 23 points per game on elite efficiency. That's not speculation. That's fact. Last season alone across both Chicago and Sacramento, LaVine played 74 games. That's important. The big knock on him has always been durability, but he showed he can stay on the floor. He averaged over 35 minutes a game, almost 30 even with the Kings. That's workhorse level production. And then there's the shooting. From the field, over 51%. From deep, 4 to 4.6%. Let that sink in. He shot nearly 45% from 3 on over 7 attempts per game. That's not a hot streak. That's sustained elite shooting. And this isn't an on-off either. He did the exact same thing in Chicago and then again in Sacramento. The same percentage, the same attempts. That's consistency. So you take that scoring package, you add his slashing, his athleticism, his ability to play off Luka and LeBron, and you tell me, how do you not take that chance, especially if it costs you nothing but a veteran minimum slot? You already used your biannual exception. You don't have cap space. You're in a position where most upgrades cost assets. But this one wouldn't. This would be like finding gold on the sidewalk. You pick it up and don't ask questions, and I know there's always the fit conversation. Would he be okay coming off the bench? With the chemistry work? Honestly, if you're signing him post-buyout, it's a moot point. Guys sign minimum deals because they want to win. And Zach LaVine would be walking into a ready-made contender. He wouldn't be asked to carry the team, just to do what he does best: score efficiently, shoot the lights out, and be a threat every time he touches the ball. To be clear, I'm not saying this is guaranteed. A lot has to happen. Sacramento would need to see a buyout as their best path forward. LaVine would have to be willing to give up a chunk of money, and the Lakers front office would need to recognize the window of opportunity. But if the stars align even for a second, you don't blink. You make the call. You clear the path. You get him in purple and gold. And let's be real, if Zach LaVine actually became available at the veteran minimum, it wouldn't just be Lakers fans salivating. There would be a line of teams trying to pitch him. But the Lakers offer something most franchises can't: the lights, the legacy, and a legitimate shot at a title. That combination still means something in this league, especially for a player like LaVine, who's never had a real taste of deep playoff success. He's been grinding for years, putting up numbers in tough situations. And this would be his chance to flip the narrative, to go from stats guy to difference maker on the biggest stage in basketball. That matters. Now think about how that impacts the rest of the roster. If the Lakers land LaVine through a buyout, you instantly elevate the ceiling of the team. It's not just about adding talent, it's about optimization. Imagine how much easier the game becomes for LeBron and Luka when you can't sag off LaVine. Picture the spacing, the floor balance, the extra lanes created just by his presence. Suddenly defenses can't load up on your two stars the same way. Suddenly Davis has more room to operate in the paint. Suddenly the whole offense becomes less predictable and way more explosive. And on top of all that, LaVine isn't some stiff on defense. Sure, he's not all-defensive team material, but he's got the length, the quickness, and the athleticism to hold his own, especially when he's not tasked with carrying the full offensive load. In a role where he's allowed to focus on being an efficient scorer while playing off of two of the best playmakers in the league, you can expect his energy and effort on the other end to rise, especially if he buys in, which you'd expect from a guy hungry to win. The ripple effect could be huge. If the Lakers do bring in LaVine and choose to keep Austin Reeves, then Reeves naturally shifts to a bench role, and that might be the best thing for him. He'd get to run the second unit, play more freely, and take advantage of weaker opposing lineups. That preserves his body, keeps him engaged, and adds serious depth to the rotation. But if the Lakers feel the need to trade Reeves to balance things out, maybe bring in a versatile threat wing or a big that can stretch the floor, then LaVine slides into the starting lineup without hesitation. Either way, you're upgrading. And let's talk matchups. You think about playoff basketball, it's all about versatility and mismatches. The Lakers as currently constructed are solid, but with LaVine they become a matchup nightmare. Defenses have to chase shooters around the perimeter. Worry about LeBron's drives, Lucas Pickandrels, and Davis rolling to the rim. Now add LaVine curling off screens, attacking closeouts, or simply spotting up on the weak side. There's no good coverage for that. You trap Luka, LaVine kills you from the corner. You double AD, now LaVine is slicing to the basket. You switch, good luck staying in front of him. It's just an avalanche of options, and it's not just defense. Think of what it means for rotations and minutes management. LeBron is getting older. We all know that. Even though he still plays at an elite level, the Lakers need to preserve his legs for the postseason. Adding another perimeter scorer like LaVine means fewer nights where LeBron has to go all out just to keep the team in it. Same goes for Luka, who tends to carry heavy usage. You can stagger lineups more effectively, reduce the wear and tear, and keep everyone fresher for when it really counts. Then there's the narrative angle. This is Hollywood. The Lakers are the most glamorous franchise in the NBA, and LaVine, let's face it, is box office. The dunks, the shot making, the swagger, it all fits. Put him in that Lakers jersey and the storylines write themselves. Redemption, reinvention, championship chase. It's tailor-made for prime time. And in today's NBA, where player movement dominates headlines and perception is everything, this is the kind of move that energizes the fan base, grabs national attention, and sends a message to the rest of the league: we're not done. And we haven't even talked about the stats in depth yet. Because honestly, when you dive into the numbers, it's hard not to get excited. 74 games played last season. That's a full slate. Availability was one of the biggest knocks on LaVine, but he showed he can stay on the court over 35 minutes per game. That's no small feat, especially considering he was playing nearly 37 minutes a night after getting traded. He wasn't just available, he was heavily relied on. And the efficiency off the charts, over 51% from the field, nearly 45% from deep on high volume. We're talking about a guy who isn't just chucking, it's efficient, sustainable shooting. And that's huge for the Lakers, who've often struggled with floor spacing around their stars. Adding a guy who shoots that well from deep on 7+ attempts per game changes the entire geometry of your offense. Defenses can't collapse as easily. The paint opens up, the passing lanes become clearer, and all of a sudden your offense hums. He also averaged over 23 points per game last season, without a Luka or LeBron feeding him the ball. That's impressive. Now imagine what he could do with even better looks, fewer double teams, and the freedom to pick his spots. His role would naturally shrink a bit in terms of usage, but his efficiency could go up even further. And that's a terrifying thought for opposing defenses. LaVine also gives the Lakers something they've lacked: rim pressure. He's one of the best in the league at putting his head down and getting to the rack. He forces rotations, gets to the free throw line, and finishes through contact. That's not just about highlight plays, it's about momentum-shifting sequences that swing games. Those are the kinds of plays that win playoff games, that shift energy in a building, that demoralize opponents and rally teammates. And with LaVine's athleticism still fully intact, he brings that on any given possession. And speaking of the postseason, this is where things really get exciting. The Western Conference is a battlefield. You've got teams stacked with wings, loaded with scorers, and capable of switching everything on defense. To survive that, you need options. You need adaptability. You need depth. LaVine brings all of that. If your primary action gets blown up, you can still hand him the ball and let him go to work. If your top guys are struggling, he can carry the scoring load for a quarter. If someone gets hurt, he can step into a bigger role. That kind of insurance is priceless in a playoff setting. And don't overlook the psychological edge. When a team like the Lakers, already loaded with stars, suddenly adds another major weapon for basically nothing, it sends a ripple through the league. Other teams start questioning their own depth, coaches start rethinking their matchups, and players start looking around wondering how they're supposed to keep up. That matters, because in the playoffs every edge counts: momentum, confidence, chemistry, intimidation, it all adds up. Plus, the Lakers have always been about stars. It's in their DNA. This is the franchise of Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron. Adding LaVine isn't just about numbers, it's about identity. It reinforces the idea that the Lakers go big or go home, that they never settle. that they're always in the mix, that they always find a way. And honestly, even if it doesn't happen, just the idea that it could is powerful, because it keeps the pressure on, it keeps fans engaged, it keeps the front office sharp, and it forces every other team in the West to ask themselves, what if now none of this is a guarantee? The Kings might decide to hold on to LaVine. He might not want to buy out. The money might not line up. Things could fall apart. But if it even becomes a sliver of a possibility, the Lakers have to be ready. You can't sleep on chances like this. In this league, windows open and close fast. You can't afford to hesitate. Before we continue, we ask that you leave a like and subscribe to the channel, so you won't miss any exclusive Lakers updates. Moving on, Los Angeles may be bracing for a seismic shift. While no official statement has been made by the league or the player himself, buzz is swirling that Damian Lillard is set to don the purple and gold as the Lakers' new starting point guard. Sources close to the situation suggest the announcement could be imminent, though some insiders are urging caution, pointing out that in the world of NBA deals, nothing is final until the ink is dry. Rumors of Lillard's potential move to LA have been circulating for months, often dismissed as fantasy. But in the past 24 hours, those whispers have grown louder, with several outlets hinting at behind-the-scenes talks that could have culminated in a deal. Lillard, who spent the bulk of his career as the face of the Portland Trail Blazers before a brief stint with the Milwaukee Bucks, has long expressed admiration for the Lakers franchise, not to mention a desire to play in a system that values experience, leadership, and championship contention. The Lakers, meanwhile, have been desperately seeking backcourt stability after a rocky postseason exit. While D'Angelo Russell provided moments of brilliance, consistency at the point guard position has been elusive. If the rumors prove true, Lillard could bring not only his trademark deep-range shooting and late-game heroics, but also a veteran presence capable of complementing LeBron James and Anthony Davis in what many see as their final window for a title run. Still, skepticism lingers. Cap space, trade assets, and roster dynamics remain massive hurdles. Would the Lakers part ways with key rotation players to make room for Dame time? And would Lillard be ready to embrace the immense pressure that comes with leading one of the NBA's most storied franchises? For now, fans are left to speculate. But one thing is clear: if this deal materializes, the Western Conference power dynamics could be in for a dramatic shakeup. Until confirmation comes, all eyes will remain on Crypto.com arena and on Damian Lillard's next move. Stay informed exclusively about Los Angeles Lakers news. Subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to keep receiving daily updates. Also, share your opinion on the news in the comments, as your contribution is crucial for the Lakers. Stay tuned for the next video.